to get around. So here, this is called the viewport. This is where you can see everything. You can see your objects, you can see your camera, you can see your lights, and this is the outliner, where you can see everything in your scene. So again, camera, cube, and light. This is the properties panel, where you can adjust properties like location, transform, etc. Okay, so here's how you move around in Blender. So if you have a mouse, you can press middle click to orbit. So you hold middle click, you move your mouse, you orbit around the center of your screen. And if you don't have a mouse, then you could go to edit, preferences, and input, and you can emulate 3-button mouse. So if you enable this, you can press alt and left mouse button and it'll act as a middle click. So if you want to pan around the scene, you hold shift and you hold the middle mouse button, and that's how you move around. And if you want to focus back on any object, you click it and you press the period key on your numpad. And if you don't have a numpad, you can again go to preferences, input, and emulate numpad. So that's the main way to move around in Blender. Hold middle click to rotate, shift to pan. Okay, now let's try to move this cube. So there's two ways to do it. One is you press the move button here and it'll give you these 3 axes. So this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and this is the z-axis. In Blender, the z-axis is like the top to bottom axis. Like in other programs like Unity, it's usually the y-axis, but in Blender it's Z. So you can move it around like this, but it's kind of weird and time consuming. So instead you can press a shortcut, cube, and press G to grab. So this Alright, so we've done rotation and we've done movement. Now we have a third thing called scaling. This is where you increase the size of your object. So you can scale on the x-axis, on the z-axis, and the y-axis, or you can overall scale by holding the middle. And for this as well, there's a shortcut, which is S for scaling. So you press S, you move with your mouse, you can make your cube as big as you want. And again, if you want to scale in particular axes, you press X for x-axis, S and Y for the y-axis, and S and Z for the z-axis. And same way, if you press S and shift Z, it's on X and Y. If you press scale and shift Y, it scales on Y and X. Alright, let's just reset this. If you want to reset it, a shortcut is Alt G to reset position, Alt S to reset scale, and Alt S to reset rotation. There's a 1 minute delay. Alright, so that's the basics of movement. Right, 1 is vertex select, 2 is edge select, and 3 is face select. So you can also select multiple of these vertices at once. So if I hold down the shift key and I click, I can select 4 of these vertices and I can grab them together. I can do the same with edges. I can hold shift, select one edge, move, hold shift, select a second, move, hold shift, select a second edge, and I can rotate both of them. And similarly for faces, hold shift, select 2 faces, you can select multiple, and let's just delete the cube again. Shift A to add a cube, press tab to go into edit mode. If you want, you can also select all of these modes at once. So hold shift, select all 3 of them. So now I can select a vertex, I can select an edge, and I can select a face. But usually we just go with either one of those modes. So next is the operations that you can do in edit mode. So let's go back. So the first one is extrude. So basically extrude is kind of like pulling out a region or extending it. So let's try extruding this edge. So go to edge select, select this edge and go to the extrude here. So now here you can click this and it extrudes the region. So like you see, like we've sort of alright, so now let's select an edge and bevel it. So bevel is sort of like cutting off an edge to create a new face. So select this edge, go to bevel, you can drag this to bevel it. So you see, it's like you kind of chop off that edge and you create a new face. And the shortcut for bevel is Control B. So B for bevel. That's for beveling edges. You can also bevel vertices. So select a vertex, and here you have to use the shortcut. So for edges it was Control B, but for vertices it's Control Shift B. So that's how you bevel a vertex. Again, it's like you cut it off and you create a new face. So here again you can just play around with it. Go to face select, select a face, extrude it, maybe select this and extrude that one as well. Now the final tool I'm going to show you is loop cuts. So delete the cube and let's see, add in a new cube. So right now each face has just 4 vertices, and you might just want to like split this up into more faces and more vertices. So for that you can use loop cuts. So a loop cut is a cut that goes all the way here. So you can choose which loop to cut it on. So you see that yellow indicator, so it shows you which way it'll go. So if I move my mouse around here, it cuts along the horizontal. If I move it here, it's along the vertical. So left click to create a cut. So if you go back into box select, you can see that we have a new edge here. We have a new edge and we have new vertices, and the loop cut goes all along the cube. So you can create more loop cuts if you want, and there's a shortcut for this as well. So let's start over. So the shortcut is Control R. So just a second, tab. Yeah, if you press Control R, you can view this, and you left click to confirm, and here it allows you to slide the loop. Alright, so let's say you add something with Shift A. So if I place down a cube, it spawns it at the location of this 3D cursor, and there's a way to move it. So okay, let's suppose your cursor is at world origin and you have your cube here, and you want to move your cursor to the cube. So you hold Shift S, you select cursor to selected, and it places the cursor at the origin of the cube. And similarly, you have cursor to active, which is also similar. Not exactly sure what cursor to grid does. And on the other hand, let's say you want to teleport this cube to the origin. So one of the easiest ways to change the origin is, let's see, you place the 3D cursor somewhere and you set the origin to the 3D cursor. So let's say I place the 3D cursor here and I right click the object. So here I can click set origin, and I can set origin to 3D cursor. So you can see the little orange dot is at the origin. So now when I select the cube, okay, that is weird. So you can see it moves with the origin like that. If I rotate it, it rotates around the origin. If I scale it, again it scales around the origin. So let's reset that. Right, let's just delete that cube, add another one. Alright, so let's suppose you want the origin to be on the bottom. So what you can do is, you can go to edit mode, you can go to face select, press 3 or press that, select the bottom face. Now I hold Shift S and cursor to selected. So since you've selected the bottom face, the cursor goes to that bottom face. So the cursor is now there. Now what you can do is, you can select the cube, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. So now the 3D cursor is at the bottom. If you rotate it, it rotates around that origin, and if I scale it, it scales around the origin. So now if I press Z, I can finally scale in one direction. So this is going to be really useful later on. For now, let's just delete it, Shift S and cursor to world origin and release. Okay, so let's get started with making a simple living room. Alright, so whenever you make something in Blender, you should use references. So what I've put down here is some of the references that I'm gonna use. So, like, without a reference, it's hard to know what you're going to make and what you need to make, and you'll just forget what things look like. So you can see in the reference there's couches, there are chairs, there's a painting, there's a plant, there's a table lamp, there's many things. So I've put down a list of things that we can potentially make. So we can make a table, we can make a couch, chair, lamp, plant, even an AC. We could also make a TV, maybe some baskets and some books. So the number of things you can add it just depends on what you want. So let's start with a table. So for this I'm going to use an application called PureRef. So like, it's not necessary, but it can be useful. So it lets you see, like, it gives you a place to put down your references. So let's see, I don't think we have a table here, so I'll just minimize it for now. Right, so first of all, let's just create a plane. So we just want a sort of floor. So you either add mesh plane, or you press shift A, mesh, and plane. That's kind of small, so press S and scale it a bit, left click to release. Okay, so let's start out with a cube. Shift A, add a cube, and then G and Z to bring it up. So we're gonna make this the base of our table, so like, the top part. So we're gonna flatten this a bit by pressing S and Z, so we make it kind of flat, and we release. So now let's add the legs. The legs are going to be easy. So first thing we can do is we can press shift S and move the cursor to selected. So it's just easier adding objects around here. So now you press shift A and you add a cube. Let's make this one smaller, and let's make it longer on the Z axis. So press G, Z to just move it down a bit. I think that looks good. Now press G and shift Z. So now we are moving on the XY plane, and let's just place it over here. That's one leg done. Now you can just duplicate this instead of manually adding more cubes. So the shortcut for that is you select this and you press shift plus D. So now it's basically duplicate and grab. So you've duplicated it and you've grabbed it. So now all you need to do is press Y, so you can move it along here and just place it there. Maybe I need to move these on the Z a little bit. So select multiple by left click and then shift left click. So wait, G, Z, and then G, Y, move this a bit here. And now for this bit, again, you can select both of these this time, and you can press shift D to duplicate both and move them on the x-axis. So this is probably the simplest way to make a table, but there are better methods, and I'm gonna show you those now. So let's take these and move it, like just hold left click to drag, press G, just move it out of the way. Now let's create another cube with shift A, press S to scale, Z for Z axis, and make it smaller. And just like we did the last time, let's make the legs. So scale it, increase it on the Z axis. So the issue here is, again, when we are moving this, the origin is in the center, so it kind of makes it hard if I want to, like, let's say I place this here and I want to make it bigger. That's just not very smooth. So what we can do is what we did earlier. So select this, go to edit mode, or like press tab, press 3 or this for face select, and let's select this face. Shift S for cursor to selected, and then go back into object mode, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. So now I can just drag it back here, reduce it on the Z, let's see, and shift Z to position it correctly. And now I can scale it however I want, so I can make it really short or really long. Make it around this length. Now instead of duplicating, we can add something called a modifier. So you click this cube, you go to here, it's a wrench icon, you click it and you add a modifier. So what we are adding is called the mirror modifier. So what we're going to do is we're going to mirror this leg onto this side and onto the other sides as well. So click, add modifier, in generate you'll find mirror. So now we need a reference point for the mirror, so we can select this, our main cube. So go here, you can either choose the cube manually, but since you haven't named it, it's hard to find, or we could press this eyedropper. So you click this, you go into your scene and you select this cube. So now you can see that it's already started to mirror. So what it does is it takes the point of reference as this origin. So it's like this origin is a mirror, and it's set to mirror on the x-axis, which it is. Now we can just do the same on the other side by going here and also enabling y. So if I disable x, it only mirrors there. If I have both, we have all 4 legs. And if you mirror it on the Z, it creates this, if you want that kind of table. Now there's a third way to do this. Like, so far we've been using multiple different meshes. So this one has 4 meshes, this one has 2. So this time we're going to use loop cuts and extrude. So we're going to create a table with just one mesh. So let's drag and select these, move it out of the way. Now shift A, add a mesh, add a cube. So let's take this, scale it on the Z, G and Z for moving it. Now press tab to go into edit mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to add loop cuts here so that we can create some square faces on the corners, and then we extrude those faces downwards to create our legs. So let's see, you can press Ctrl R. Let's just create two loops here and just right click to place them in the original location. So now we want to move these loops towards the side. So there's a way to select an entire loop. So you can either go to edge select and select this, hold shift, select this, rotate, select this, or you could hold alt and click on the loop. As you can see, alt plus click selects the whole thing. Again here, alt and click. So let's select both of these cubes. So hold alt and click, and here hold alt and also hold shift and click. So both of these are selected. So if you want to move them towards the side, we can actually just use the scaling tool. So press S to scale, and we only want them to move on the x-axis. So we press X and you can see it smoothly slides now. So just place them near the edge where they look kind of good and left click to release. Now we're going to do the same on this side. Control R, two edge loops, right click to release, alt click, shift alt click, S to scale, and here we are moving it on the y-axis. So you press Y and you move it till you're comfortable here. By the way, if you want to keep track of which axis is which, this is the guide. So the one over here is X, this is Z, this is Y, and that's what the grid colors are for. Y is green, X is red, Z is blue, but I guess it doesn't show it. And this is also a quick way to just orbit around the scene. Like if you don't want to emulate the middle click, you can use these icons. So you left click and hold to move this. This is for zooming, this is for panning. Alright, so now we have these cuts here. So what we can do is go to face select, or just press 3 and select this face over here and press E to extrude. So that's one leg, and you could like manually do it for each leg, but best practice is go back and select all of them at once. So select this, hold shift, select this one, select this one, and select this one, and press E, you hold it and you release. And here if you want to adjust the length again, you select these faces again, and then you can just grab them. So G to grab, Z to restrain to the Z axis, and now they can be whatever length you want. Okay, so that's 3 ways to create a table. Now let's think of what to create next. So we could create a couch, a chair, a lamp, a plant, an air conditioner, or a TV. So let's create a lamp first, because it looks pretty simple. So let's go back. So for this, again, let's move these. Maybe set the cursor to world origin with shift S, and so I'm gonna open up PureRef here, and if you look at this lamp, you'll notice that it's just 2 cylinders. So like this pole is a cylinder, and this thing, the lampshade, is also a cylinder. So we're going to add two cylinders. So you press Shift A, mesh and cylinder, and let's move this up. This is going to be our lampshade, and another one we can make the pole. So mesh, cylinder, move it up, make it thin with like scale and Shift Z, so we scale on X and Y. You can like make it thin, and let's set the origin to the top face. So let's just move it here. Let's go to edit mode, 3 for face select, select the top face, Shift S, cursor to selected, press tab, back to object mode, and set origin to the 3D cursor. So now we could just manually move it again like that, but we want it in the center again, so we're going to use the same trick. Select, tab, 3 for face select, click this face, Shift S and cursor to selected. So now press tab to go back into object mode, select this and Shift S and cursor to selected. Wait, no, I was supposed to do it the other way. Okay, so Shift S, cursor to selected, and now Shift S, selection to cursor. So now we have the lampshade in the right spot. So now you can just press S and Z to scale it. That's a bit too big. Yeah, okay. So now you can see that the lampshade doesn't look smooth. Like, it's a cylinder, but you know, it has these edges. So to fix that, we're going to change the shading type. So you click the object, right click, and you shade smooth. So now you can see that it's smooth. Like, it doesn't have the cloth texture yet, but it at least feels round now. So if you want to go back, you shift and shade flat. Let's keep it at smooth and do the same for this. Okay, so now we can see that this is solid. We want an opening because that's how lamps are. So you press you press tab and you select this face. So now we can dissolve this face. So like, if you want to delete a face, you right click and I guess dissolve faces. No, delete. Yeah, so you can right click and press delete faces, which would delete that, or you can press X, which is a shortcut, and delete faces. So as you can see, that's deleted. We could keep this bit here like this for now. Like, you won't really see it in the scene. Oh, and let's say you want to add the face back again. So what you do is you select the loop, like go to edge select, hold alt and select this entire loop and press F for face. Maybe I think you could do it with the right click as well. Yeah, new face from edges, and to delete it, X and faces. So that's how you make a lampshade. Now let's make a couch, a really simple couch. So the difference between a table and a couch is that couch is pretty soft, like it's not sharp. So to achieve that, we're gonna use a bevel. So let's move this lamp out of the way. Just move it, and let's see, go back, Shift A, and let's add a cube. So let's make one of these bottom cushions first. So you scale it, not Shift Z, Z. This seems like the right size. Now we can bevel this. Okay, like press the period key to concentrate on it, and left click, tab. So we can like individually bevel these by selecting the edge, the bevel tool, or Control B. But a really good way to do it is go back to box select and select everything. So press A for everything. So if you press A, you can select everything. If you double press A, it's everything. So now you can bevel all the edges at once. So again, press A to select everything, or just press 3 for face select and select everything if you want to do it that way, but this is better. And Control B, you can bevel it at once. So if you don't want to bevel it too much, we just want to make it just a bit softer, so like something like this. So if you can't have fine control over it, you can hold Shift. Alright, so if you hold Shift, it becomes a bit less sensitive. You can just do it more slowly. So this is how it is without holding Shift. This is how it is with holding Shift. So just hold Shift, slowly do this, and I think that looks about right. So now this looks a bit more like a cushion shape, but it's still not perfect. So what we can do is we can add a modifier. This one is called subdivide. So what subdivide does is it creates more faces and makes everything smoother. So select the cube, go to modifier, the wrench here, add a modifier, and it's the one over here, subdivision surface, which we call a subsurf. So you see, the moment we add it, we get a bunch of new faces. If you go back into edit mode, we can see that our original mesh is the same, but the modifier just adds these faces. If you want to view the mesh as it is, you can press here to go into, shows you the overall edges, and just press this to go back to our original view. Like, remember, wireframe lets you see all the things as a wireframe. So you can see here we have two settings: levels, viewport, and render. So divisions. So if I increase this to 2, it becomes smoother. I can keep increasing it till it's, well, extremely smooth. Let's just set it back to 1, or let's set it to 2. So you can see there are 2 of these. So the first one is the levels that's going to be in the viewport, so over here. Meanwhile, render is when you finally render your thing, which we will do later. It's the subdivisions that are present during the render. Okay, so we can see that this is much more smooth, looks like a real cushion now. So now it still has these, these sharp sort of faces, so we right click and we shade it smooth. So now it looks really nice. So let's duplicate some of these. So let's see, if I want to make a couch, I guess it usually has this bottom sort of thing here. So for that, let's see, let's create another cube. Or actually, let's just duplicate this. So I'm gonna have 3 cushions. So one way I can do is press this Shift E and create a duplicate. So I can just duplicate this and move it, or I could use a modifier. So this modifier is called an array. So like just as the name suggests, it's an array of objects. Like, so I'll show it to you. You add modifier generate array, and as you can see, we instantly created another one. So here we have a few options. This is the count, so you can increase the number of objects you want. Let's set it to 3 for our purposes. And we have offset, so if you increase the offset, it increases the distance, but let's just leave it at 1. So now let's create this thing, the bottom thing. Let's see. Feels like the cushions are a bit apart on this side. Let's try reducing the offset and squeezing it in a bit. Okay, this looks fine. Just reduce the offset by a bit. Let's move the 3D cursor to the 3D cursor to selected. Yes. Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's add another cube. So this is going to be the bottom support. So decrease the size, GZ, and let's make this an array as well, so it's easier to control. So modifier array and 3, and let's also make it the same offset, so 0.860 here, 0.860. Make it a bit smaller. Actually, let's just bring the offset back to 1. Make it a bit smaller. Let's see, we could add a subsurf to this. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, these apply in the order that you put them, by the way. So if you put the array first, it applies the array and then the subsurf. So you can just move it and it makes a difference. So subsurf doesn't seem to cut it. So let's try beveling this. Nope. Let's see. We could just leave it as it is for now. Maybe move this back a bit. And let's just add the side guards. So we're gonna add the cushions at the back as well. which we're going to do with duplicate. So Shift D, and if you press right click, it places them back in the original position. Press R and rotate along the x-axis. So we want a 90-degree turn. So what you can do is, if you type in 90, it becomes 90 degrees. So rotate, press X, and just type 90 on your numpad, or on your numbers. So 90, and press enter. Or you could rotate it manually if you want. So now G Y to move it here, GZ, just make it nice, maybe something like this. Maybe increase the height of this. So SZ, think that's a bit more like, okay, that's less of a sofa. And see, still fine, I guess. You could just consider it an array of chairs. So let's just duplicate one of these, move it on the X. Let's remove the array for now. Just go to the modifiers and press this X. Let's rotate this by 90 degree on the Y. So R, again R, and R, Y, and 90. So G, X, that's the handrest. GX, yeah. Again, Shift D, move it on the handrest. So for this part, what you could do is, to make it look natural, you could make it just one whole thing. So let's just remove the array, scale it on the X, move it here. I think that looks fine as a couch. Yeah. GY, move it in. I mean, if you don't like the cushions, you could do the same thing as well. So I guess we are done with the couch. We could also make one of these pillows. So you go here, let's add another cube. Let's see, S, Z, just make it small. And I suppose we can add a bevel again. And that's how you create a flat screen TV. Again, insert, extrude inwards. Now we can just create a stand. So select this face, Shift S, cursor to selected, and tab into object mode. You can add a mesh, a cylinder here. Press S, make it smaller. GZ. Let's change the origin to the top of this. Shift S, cursor to selected, press tab, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. Press G, press Z, move it here, scale it on the Z axis, and let's add the last bit of the stand there. So go here, tab 3 for face select, select this face, shift S, put the cursor over there, tab back into object mode, shift A, add a circle. So a circle is different from other meshes because it doesn't have any faces, it's just a circle. So if you render it, like, this is going to be empty. So what we can do is you press tab and you can either go with face select. Okay, face select doesn't do anything. You can either use vertex select and select all the vertices, or like hold alt for the entire loop, or go to edge select, hold alt, left click to select entire loop, and then press F to fill in the face. And that's how you make a stand for the TV. This should be a little smaller, I guess. And there we go. You have a table, a lampshade, and a couch. Now let's make one of these, a plant. So let's start by modeling one of these vases. So for that, we could either start with a cylinder or we could start with a cube. Let's get a cylindrical pot. Just shift, get a basket or a chair. It's pretty simple now. Like right now, like, if you follow the tutorial this far, you have the tools to make pretty much all the furniture here. So we can shade these smooth as well. And let's see, let's make an air conditioner then, or actually so if you want to make this look better, press tab to go back into edit mode. Let's take this face, and I don't think I can add loop cuts. I think I can add, can I subdivide it? Let's see. Nope. So we could just inset this. So inset, scale it down. Maybe we could scale it down to a 0. So to do that, press S and then press 0 on either your numpad or your number buttons, and then press enter. So now we have this interesting wireframe basket. So you can see that if you go back into edit mode and go to vertex select, yeah, so there's actually a ton of vertices here. So we're gonna select all of them and we'll have to merge them. So drag to select this and press M and merge at center. So that gets rid of any extra vertices if we had them. We can go back into wireframe mode. Let's add some wires around here as well. For that we can just use loop cuts. So Control R, increase the number to around 3, right click and go back. We can also adjust the thickness of these. You can make a thicker basket. Let's see, this is pretty sharp. Smooth shading makes it look bad. Boundary, replace original geometry. Let's add a subsurf to this. That's a very interesting looking basket. Like, sometimes if you add a subsurf to something, it just somehow ends up looking good. Like, that's kind of a rule. So, um, let's just disable the subsurf for now. Let's add loop cuts for these. Yeah, if you add just loop cuts here, it looks a bit more natural. Left click and right click, so that's more like a basket. And here for this face, we might as well inset that one. Just add an inset 0, wait, no, inset, add it, S and 0, and then select these vertices. Yeah, vertex select these, merge at center, and add loop cuts 1 2 3 and right click. So it looks more like a good basket now. And add the subdivide modifier, subdivision surface. Okay, we have a nice looking basket here. So let's see, we've completed all of these. We've completed most of these as well. We can just make an air conditioner, and that can be the last thing that we make today. So we go back here. Let's see, an air conditioner would be, it's over here. I guess could we get a better reference? I'll just quickly look one up. So air conditioner, like if you want you can just search stuff on Google, go to images, just let's get this one. So I'm gonna wait for it to load. Just copy the image, paste it here, and yeah, let's go back and put this into present. Right, so this is practically a cube with a bevel here and another bigger bevel here. So just go shift and right click here, add a cube, right, press X to just make it bigger. Let's go into edit mode, press 2 for edge select, control B to make it a bit bigger here, and another bevel here. So if you scroll on these, you can increase the number of bevel cuts as well. Alright, so after you inset those two faces, you press E and you extrude them inwards. So now you have an air conditioner. So as you can see, we don't have the black there because we haven't done the materials yet, which is something we'll do in the next session. So this is the basic AC, and let's say you want the grills here. So let's create an inset here. So if you want, you could just leave it with a right click so it becomes default, and then E to extrude it slightly inwards. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to create another mesh that has a wireframe modifier. So what you can do is you can select this face and press Shift D to duplicate it. So if you go back to object mode, you see that these two are still part of the same mesh. You can go back into edit mode, you can select this face, and then you can press P. So if you press P, it lets you separate. So we separate by selection. So now if you go back into object mode, these two are separate objects. So let's make this the grill. So for this, let's left click. You can either add loop cuts like this, or you can right click and subdivide. But in this case I feel like loop cuts might be a bit more controllable. So add loop cuts here, right click, horizontal loop cuts, like let's add these many, and right click and go into modifiers, generate, and wireframe. Let's increase the thickness. Let's see, even thickness first. Okay, that looks better. So just take this grill, and since you have the cursor, 3D cursor here already, Shift S, selection to cursor. Wait. Okay, so as you can see, it's not moving to the cursor, and there's a reason for it. So since we separated it from this, its origin is still the same. So if we move this around, you can see that the origin is still here. So that's a quick way to fix it. You can either like move the 3D cursor back and set origin, or just right click, set origin to geometry. So that sets it to the middle of the geometry here, and then Shift S, selection to cursor, and then just move it along the y-axis. And the z-axis here. So now we have a pretty good air conditioner. Like, remember, start with a cube, bevel this with multiple cuts, this as well, and then select these two faces, inset and extrude inwards, then inset and extrude inwards for this face, duplicate it, and make it a wireframe. Mostly it for today. I'll just give a brief on what we're gonna do in the next session. So in order to add color to things in Blender, we have these things called materials. So the materials allow you to add textures, colors, and it makes anything look realistic. And I'll also teach you how to place lights, how to render properly. So now right click and let's see, join, convert, duplicate. You can just press move to collection and add a new collection. Let's call this one couch. So now we have a collection called couch here. Let's take this AC and the grill, right click, move to collection, new collection, air conditioner, and let's take this TV, the stand, and this mesh, right click, move to collection, television, and this can be, I guess this is one mesh, so that's already a chair. I mean, that's already a table. This one is two meshes, so let's call this table 2. This one we'll call this table 3. And this one can be chair. This is lamp. Okay, so now everything is just very easy to organize. So let's say you wanna just hide something, just press this, so you can just hide everything you want and make them reappear. And let's say you want to select something within a selection, like press the couch collection, right click, and I believe it's select objects, so you can select the whole collection and easily just move it around. Right, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining the session. I'll see you in the next one.
Chase a light, we're rolling but on the go. Running for my life. Feel the light. Running for my life. Running for my life. circles, running around. Break down, chase the light. We're rolling, but on the go. Running for my life. Feel the light. Running for my life. Running for my life. Running for my life. Head high, we're alone. Are we taking all in front of us? Head high, how could we know it was all along on the side? We should read between the lines, and we're on the right way to go. Head high, we're not alone. Oh, we are not out of luck. Running for my life. Feel the light. Running for my life. Running for my life. Running for my life. Running wild, I'm running for my life. Break down, we're alive. Are we running circles, running around? Break down, chase the light. We're rolling, but on the go. Running for my life. Feel the light. Running for my life. Running for my life. Running for my life. Head high, we're alone. Are we taking all in front of us? Head high, how could we know it was all along on the side? We should read between the lines, and we're on the right way to go. Head high, we're not alone. Oh, we are not out of luck.
Ahora están